Hi, I'm Millcreek Township Supervisor John Groh. As we all know, one of the primary functions of local government is to provide an infrastructure to travel along with the associated drainage. The challenge of providing those services in the most cost-efficient manner for the 29.5 square mile area of Millcreek Township, along with the 200 miles of township-maintained roads, is a very daunting task. To discuss these and many other topics, and probably a few more, is the Department of Public Works Director Gary Snyder. Welcome to the show, Gary.
It's good to be back, John.
Okay, appreciate you being here. Of course, just for a matter of reference here for the viewers, the day we're recording this is January 19th, so just 3 or 4 weeks ago, we just went through the worst storm Erie and the surrounding area has ever experienced with snow. Of course, we are getting a lot of those matters taken care of, and I think we're in pretty good shape now. But let's have a recap of that there and talk about just what we do at the township in regards to snow plowing and so on. So I've got a couple points to bring up, and hopefully you give me some answers and give to our residents, let them know what's going on. First of all, let's talk about that snow emergency. What type of mode did we as a township go into when that snow emergency started, which I believe, if I recall, was Christmas Eve is really when it started going crazy on us there.
Correct.
What all happened there from our standpoint?
Well, because it was the holiday, we had to call people in from their homes.
Yes.
And the fellows were pretty good about coming in.
Very good. Yes.
At times between Christmas Eve and New Year, or Christmas Day, we were getting snow at 6 inches an hour.
Yeah.
Very tough to keep up with when it comes down that fast.
Yes. Oh yeah. And of course, we were running 12-hour shifts. We're running the guys on it, the crews that were there, and that's not an easy job, folks. I'll tell you, I've ridden on the snowplow trucks with the guys. I'm not a CDL driver, so I can't drive the vehicle, and you wouldn't want me on a plow anyway. But yeah, it is a tough job. Just even sitting there riding, as a passenger, it can wear you out. So you got to hand it to these guys that do this for 12 hours. Of course, they're not in the cab all that time. They have to get out and refuel, they have a lunch or something.
Right.
Take a little time out of the saddle there. So, but anyway, let's talk about. Of course, in the intro, I mentioned how many roads that we do service. It's over 200 miles of township maintained roads.
Correct.
Means we do the paving on, of course, in the spring and summer and fall, as long as we can, and then also the plowing. We take care of the plowing efforts and anything else that happens, patching, storm drains, manholes, catch basins, and so on. There are also some streets and highways in Millcreek Township that are not under our control. Route 20, West 26th Street, West Ridge Road, that sort. West 12th Street, West Lake Road, Route 5, and then Route 5A, which goes down along 6th Street, 8th Street to 6th Street. Who maintains that?
We maintain that from Route 5 into Pittsburgh Avenue.
Right. Okay.
That we maintain.
Okay.
The rest of it is done by the state.
Okay. Now, I think I've covered all the east-west roads. Now, what about the north-south? I think we have Grubb Road is one that is PennDOT maintained.
Correct.
Zook Road is also another one there.
Yes.
Did I miss any other roads other than Millfair Road?
Yeah, Millfair only goes part way.
Right.
They do between Route 5
right.
and 38th Street.
Right, and that's just because of the recent swap, because of the construction of the roundabout out there at Route 5 and Millfair Road. That's how that came about, because before that it was Millcreek Township and Fairview Township shared that. Now PennDOT has taken over everything on that.
Correct.
So, yeah, so that's, so folks, if you want to know who maintains the different roads, you want to keep that in mind there. Just keep it as a matter of reference. Of course, if you call us for something regarding a PennDOT road, of course, we'll let PennDOT know. So, and sometimes we may even catch it ourselves under agreements with PennDOT. I mean, it's not that we're isolated and they're isolated. We help each other out when we can. So, how many trucks do we have here at the township to do the plowing?
We maintain 17 trucks. Now,
Okay.
those are dual-purpose trucks.
Right.
They not only plow, but we salt with those same trucks.
Okay.
In the past, we had separate plow trucks, separate salt trucks. This is a much more efficient way of doing it.
Right.
Under what we would call a normal snow.
What is normal anymore?
Right. You get 8-10 inches. The fellows will plow and salt as
At the
they
same
go
time,
along.
so they're shaking the salt as they're pushing it.
Correct.
Okay.
And if everything goes okay, we can get the township with those 17 plow routes. We can get the township done in about 5 hours.
Okay.
So it gives them a complete trip through their route and maybe start on a second one.
Right. Okay. So that would be in constant motion there too.
Yes.
So you said 5 hours it takes to do a route, and that's
do a
just
route.
for one of the 17 trucks to do that.
Right.
So, folks, that gives you an idea of how the challenge that our plow operators have, and of course. Let me move on to the next thing. What do they face out there, the plow operators? Of course, I can tell you from being in a truck, last year when they were pushing snow, I know cars out there or other things that might be in the way.
That is really our biggest challenge.
Okay.
Millcreek has an ordinance that says anytime there's a snow event, the cars aren't supposed to be parked on the street.
Right.
Unfortunately, people don't adhere to that.
Yes.
And so it makes it very, very difficult. There are some streets that are a little bit narrower in the township than others. We have to raise the wing up in order to get past them, or sometimes it's so narrow that they can't get through with the plow.
Okay.
So they will plow up to that vehicle
Yeah.
and then go around the block and plow down
yeah.
to it.
Right, and I'm sure that is frustrating for them, and I know myself, and I'm sure you have gotten calls from adjoining neighbors saying, why is that car there? You could have had that car moved and pushed the snow away from that area. So eventually it does.
Yes,
moved.
we do work closely with the police department.
Right.
But there's a process with those things. They have to give them 8 hours notice
Right.
for the first offense. After that first offense, we can have them towed at the owner's expense.
Okay.
And but we really try not to do that if we can.
Right. It's we understand things happen and so on, but ones that are constant violators of that, there we have to take a stance on it. And
Correct.
especially when it's interfering with plowing operations. It's very important for us to get that out there because it's not just for the travel of the residential traffic that's in that area. It could be for emergency personnel. It could be an ambulance or fire truck. Anything that needs to get down there, if that road is narrowed because of vehicles parked and snow plowing operations are hindered by that, well then, we got a problem then. So,
Correct.
And we don't want to see that happen. So.
And while we take an interest in every citizen in Millcreek, when we have a big snow like we did, that is our main goal, is to keep the main routes open so we can get fire service, ambulance service. Many times through this storm, we would pull the plow driver out of his route and they would plow a street if they got an ambulance call or a fire call.
Yeah.
So we work very closely with emergency services with that.
Yeah, there is a coordination between the Department of Public Works, Emergency Services, the Police Department, the towing companies, which actually I think work under the guise of the Police Department, because they're the ones that send out the orders to have a vehicle towed.
Yes.
Should it be that way there. And believe me, we really do not like to have to do that. But sometimes it's necessary, and like I said, for the repeat offenders, or for something that is so dangerous that we need it out of the way then, and we have to take that action there. Sorry we have to do it, but we have to do it.
Right.
So, okay, let's talk about, we talked about the trucks, how many we have, the issues. Salt. This is one of the things I hear a lot about. Why'd you just throw salt out on it? What constitutes us using salt? I mean, of course, it has to be frozen. The ice, has to be there. What do we do for salting? What is our policy or procedure for that?
Okay, we, like I said, normally while we're plowing, we're salting.
Okay.
The only caveat to that is if it's below 24 degrees, salt doesn't work well.
Right.
We don't use grit salt mix. Several years ago, we tried that. A lot of our citizens were complaining they were tracking it in their houses.
Yeah.
We were filling up our catch basins with it.
Right.
So we've gone to a straight salt process.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that's, you said it gets in our catch basins. Anything that's out there, whether it's a rain event or if it's a snow that melts or ice that melts, whatever's in that ends up in the storm drains, ends up in the catch basins, ends up in the storm pipes, and they need to be cleaned out once in a while too. So that's something that we maintain, of course, in the springtime and summer, and it's a constant motion. We're working on that. So. Yeah.
And some of our storm sewer pipes are metal.
Okay.
So it works on those pipes. The salt works on those pipes just as much as it does your vehicles.
Oh, okay.
You know, and sometimes it sits in there and doesn't get flushed out right away, so it just has time to work on the pipes.
Of course, yeah, some of our older pipes we're talking about, because we don't use metal pipe anymore, to my knowledge.
No.
You know, of course, you know, they last what 40 years maybe at the most. You know, a corrugated metal pipe.
If we're lucky.
Yeah, most of the stuff we're using now is high density polyethylene, HDPE, and it has a long life to it. There, I think it lasts forever.
Yes,
you know,
it will.
And very durable. So that's what our specs are now for any subdivisions or replacement of storm sewer pipes. That's what we use. Okay, let's see here. Well, I think we've covered about all we need to talk about on the snow.
Right.
And hopefully we won't get any more, but as I said at the beginning of the show, here it is January 19th. It's not a bad day today. Who knows what next week is going to bring? I think we're going to get a warm up here over the weekend, but who knows what next week is going to bring. And Lake Erie, I think, is about 90% frozen right now, according to the weather forecast this morning, so that's going to change. So anyway, let's talk about what's the first thing that happens after the freeze and thaw cycle that we get?
Well, we develop potholes.
Okay.
It's just a fact of life around this part of the country. This year being that there was a hard freeze and now a thaw and another hard freeze, we can expect pop-ups coming out of the blacktop and our township roads.
Right.
I mean, it's just one of those things of nature that we have to deal with around here.
Right.
We do appreciate people calling in if they have a severe pothole. That phone is manned through the day, and there's also a service that answers it during the night.
During nighttime, yeah.
So, but they can expect it. I mean, it's all we got to do is travel down Route 20, and we can see what's already started developing.
Right, yeah. You know, and this is something, and we're not trying to be nonchalant about it here, folks. This is something that you be prepared for. It is maddening. Yes, it jars you. It can damage your car. But by all means, let us know if you see something that is on a township road. Sometimes if it's on a PennDOT maintained road, you know, we can get out there before PennDOT, you know, and throw something in there. We have a patch machine. We and of course, we'll use it when it's hot then.
Correct.
Or a warm patch. But we also have cold patch, but sometimes that's just, you put it in there and it's gone in a day or less.
It's a temporary fix.
Yeah, it's just a temporary fix, and it needs a permanent solution. But I can only imagine what it's going to be like, and I don't want to go to imagine too much because it's scary.
Yes.
What we're looking forward to, not looking forward to, what we're going to be seeing.
Yes.
I don't look forward to this at all. So, okay. Anything else about the potholes that we need to know about?
Not so much the potholes.
Okay.
Because of this massive snow event, we are taking a lot of mailboxes.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I missed that topic there. Yes, that's correct. Mailboxes.
This is a big issue.
Yes.
The way the township ordinance reads is that we will replace a mailbox if the plow hits it.
If the blade or the wing hits it.
Right. If it's just snow off the road, that's up to the homeowner. We really stress that the Postal Service says that the mailboxes should be between 42 and 48 inches from the bottom of the box.
Yeah.
High.
Right.
It just, it comes to a time where there's just no place to put the snow. And, we've had complaints about knocking the mailboxes over and then also not getting close enough to the mailboxes.
Yeah.
So it's that fine line that
there's a balancing act on that there.
And, folks got to remember that those trucks are outfitted with an 11-foot wing on the side, and you don't feel a whole lot with those.
Yes.
It's just a big chunk of steel laying there, and we're pretty good about the ones we hit. The drivers are pretty good at telling us when they hit one. So we're we're still catching up on that, quite honestly.
Well, yeah, and this was a bad year for that. And as far as mailboxes, of course, let's go back to whether it was the question is it the blade that hit it or was it the snow that hit it? And one of the examples I like to use is, say a truck is going the opposite direction, just any truck or vehicle, and it throws up snow or ice onto your vehicle and breaks your windshield. That vehicle didn't break your windshield. The ice that it threw up onto your windshield broke it.
Correct.
You know, so it's that same way when it comes to the mailboxes. Believe me, we don't go play pinball with the mailboxes. It's not something that
It's the last thing we want
it's
to do.
the
is make
last
more
thing
work.
because it's more work that needs to be done.
Right.
But of course, if we do have the misfortune of hitting you, please remember we didn't do it on purpose. It was strictly an accident. And like I said at the beginning, there, being up in the plow truck, they're huge. You know, you can see them huge from the ground, but when you're up in and riding, you know, as a passenger, looking out there, that's a big blade. You got the wing. You got so many things they have to watch. They have to make sure if they're shaking salt out the back that they're doing that correctly. And you know,
Correct. It's
multi-skilled. You have to be.
It's multi-skilled.
Yeah. And I think we got good operators there. So.
We do.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of the work the guys do.
I am too. I think they do a great job. So, okay, now we talked about the potholes. We got back onto the mailboxes there.
Right.
Now, by the time this program gets broadcast, we're hopefully looking to spring.
Right.
What are we looking for spring this year? Paving, of course.
Paving, of course.
Yeah.
We have a couple of large storm sewer projects we'd like to get in the ground this year. Along with those storm sewer projects, what we like to do is leave them sit for a year,
Yeah.
so everything settles real well, and then we come in and reconstitute the road lights. I'll
Right.
call it. We mix it up with like a big rototiller,
Right.
and inject Portland cement in with it.
Right.
Gives us a really good base, and then we like to pave those
Right. It
the
makes
following
a good
year.
firm base for that.
Right.
Yeah. Because without a good firm base, that asphalt that we spread on top of it, it doesn't have any stability to it.
Right.
You know, the ground itself, the instability of the ground will cause that to buckle. And
Right.
then we end up with a pothole again, this time in the summer.
Yes. Yes.
So, which reminds me of something that I should have asked you this off camera. I had heard that Pennsylvania is not the worst state when it comes to potholes. That the worst one is Texas, and it's because of the heat cycle. I mean, here we have the freeze-thaw cycle. In Texas, they've got the heating-cooling cycle. You know, it heats up. I mean, you look at how hot it gets there, just the air temperature. Then you figure how much more the surface of that asphalt gets. And then it cools down at night, so the highways can buckle there real easy. You know, probably more than our potholes from the freeze-thaw cycle that we
Yes.
get. It's just something, I don't know if that's correct. I'm sure if somebody sees the show and they want to argue that point, you know how to get a hold of me. So it's something I heard, okay? Moving on, we're talking about the paving. Our paving, we have a new procedure for paving.
Yes.
The Board of Supervisors 2 years ago came up with a new way of determining what needs paved. Let's talk a little bit about that. Actually, let's talk a lot about that, so
Okay.
that people can understand what it is that we as a township are doing on that.
Okay. Before it was kind of a hit and miss when we paved. Under this new procedure, we actually go out in the fall before snow flies,
Yes.
and we rate the roads. There's a rating 1 through 5.
Right.
And it's done by our foreman and foreman only. So it's not just somebody that hasn't had any knowledge in the thing doing it. So, and then we go back and we plot those out on a map, and we kind of use our paving list off of that. The ones that are the worst, we try to get into first.
Okay.
But we're also trying to do neighborhoods instead of just a road here, a road there. Right. It just makes more sense because of the travel time. It's worked out for us.
Okay.
But we also have to do another survey in the spring.
Right.
Because just what we talked about, the potholes and road can look really good in October, and it's not there in April.
Yeah. So theoretically, we could be repaving the whole township this year.
Oh, yes.
We can't. I mean, please don't read into that too far, folks. Because normally we pave about, 10 miles of road
About
a year?
10 miles.
Okay. I think that's what we have this year.
Yes.
Now, of course, that is subject to change because, as you said, we could have roads that get really blown up here because of this winter cycle. And, of course, the list has been determined. We haven't really, approved that list yet because we do have that wiggle room in there to move things around. One of the things I want to bring up, folks, is that we may know of in the past how roads were paved. It was really a matter of calling and screaming. I hate to put it that way, but pretty much that's what it was, where residents would get a hold of the township and say, hey, I want my road paved. And yes, folks, we understand that the displeasure that maybe you don't like the road, and there's some good reasons for that. And there are other roads that are probably in worse shape. What we're doing is having, as Gary said, with this rating system, we're not the only ones. We're not the innovators on this. Other municipalities throughout Pennsylvania, actually throughout the United States, PennDOT does this too on their own highways, where they look at the road, they calculate, does this need to be replaced now? Coming up with a long-term plan of how roads will be replaced or resurfaced or whatever it might be. Sometimes these road resurfacing requires new base. It might even require storm sewers in it, as you said.
Correct.
So that delays the paving for a year or so until that base is settled down and compacted back to something close to what it was. I think if we get a base that's down to about 90% compaction, I think we're doing pretty good.
Yes.
We can't get it back to 100 like it was for virgin soil.
Never.
Never. It won't happen. So, not to get too technical about that, but so anyway, it's something to keep in mind that with this new system, of course, we always listen to your concerns that you might have, and probably take a second look at something. But we have the list, and it's pretty based on science. Not pretty. It is based on science. Yes. That we look at it, give it a rating system, and work it from there. So
it has, we have to take that list to the board.
Yes.
And the board votes on it.
That is correct.
So if it looks like we're being too stingy in one section of the township or anything like that, that's where we start making our adjustments. But it's still a scientific way of doing it.
Well, as you said, we just got the list last week from you, from the department, of roads that for this year, and I think even in the next year, that are going to be paved. However, that is subject, especially with the weather that we've had here. Who knows what is going to happen? There might be some shifting, so we may not be able to actually approve that list until give it a couple months. So we won't be able to act on it right now, I don't think. Or if we do, we would probably have a proviso in it that it's always subject to change, to amendment. So.
Yeah, those lists are always fluid. I mean, it has to be.
Yeah.
But it does work out well.
Right. Well, it goes back to that old saying about planning. You can plan all you want, plan to your heart's desire, but there's this thing called life that sometimes gets in the way. And there are things that are outside of our control that make it impossible to actually follow that plan that we had charted. So let's talk about the storm sewers. Okay, you mentioned it, a few minutes ago about our storm sewers. We got some projects coming up this year. Of course, I'm not looking for the roads or anything like that, of which we're going to be doing. Let's talk about storm sewers in general. Millcreek Township, and I'm not going to deny this, folks, we have a storm sewer problem storming problem in the township. We are always working on this thing. It is something that's always in motion. There were many, many years where storm sewers were not around. It wasn't even considered. They were not, but as we get into more and more impervious surface throughout the township, more homes, more parking lots, this issue becomes really into the forefront. And we think of the flooding that we've had in some of the areas that has, especially in this last year, gotten worse because of the storm events, the rain events that we have. So this is something we're always working on. No matter how we slice it, it doesn't seem like it's enough. But like I said, we are working on it. We're replacing pipes where need to be, and also we're putting in new ones where they need to be put in, where they might not have been before. Any new subdivision or any development that happens in the township is required to provide storm drainage, and they become part of that program, that system that we have. So, you got projects going like that there.
Yes.
We've got our streets department guys that are out there. So if they're not plowing in the winter, they're out there with a backhoe and installing some HDPE or catch basins or whatever that needs to be put in. So It's always something in motion whenever you've got a municipality, as I said, with over 200 miles of road and 29 and a half square miles of area. Those numbers, they add up, and there's always something we're working on there.
Very quickly, too.
Yes. So, and just one other thing as far as safety, folks, when you see our crews out there, they have work zones established. Please be careful in those areas. Those are they're people like the rest of us are. These are employees of the township, which we all hold very near and dear. We're like a big family there. Please be careful in those areas where they're working. Because sometimes when they're working, they're looking at the work they're doing and not realizing that you may be pulling up next to them or getting in close proximity. So we just ask that you be careful and observe the work zones that they are working in, or any contractor, not just our work guys, any of the gas company, water company, whoever it might be. So, Gary, thank you for being on our show today, and we'll have you back again probably later in the year or next year. Folks, thanks for watching the show, and gosh, I hope that we have a really nice spring, summer, and fall, and don't experience any more winter like we had here about a month ago. So thanks for watching the show.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.